When a person comes into contact with a large sum of money, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes that person can make some pretty reckless decisions. In the military, I have seen some very, very, very dumb purchases made throughout my career. Hello everybody, my name is Fabian. I have been in the Navy for 8 years and 3 months now, and in a few months I will finally be waking up from this nightmare that I have been in for the past 3 years and 8 months.
The mission. The nightmares. They're finally over.
Being stationed on an aircraft carrier, you can see some pretty awesome yet very weird and strange things. Some of the strangest things, or things I've just heard of, like horror stories, are of items that sailors spend their money on. I describe it as sort of a curse on these new sailors. This is why. Many young adults join straight or soon after high school. And when you join the military, you at the very least will start seeing $1,200 per month hitting your bank account, no questions asked. So many sailors see that no different than winning the lottery machine at Chuck E. Cheese. So I have seen some rather horrifying and useless things that these young sailors spend their money on. The first guy we had actually slept on our berthing. Now, in fact, he was an airman, and I believe when he made this purchase, he was an EU1. Now, a lot of us in this berthing already thought he was pretty weird because some of the things that he would do in the bathroom. But after talking with him and him telling us some of the debt he was in, it was pretty bad. What we found out was apparently he had bought a Mustang as an E1, which is already bad enough. But frankly, it's not terrible because it's a very common purchase that people will make is new cars in the military. But with that, a large portion of his paycheck is already going towards that car now. I mean, you got insurance, you got repairs, you got your license, you got a lot of stuff. But if that wasn't enough, he then bought a second car for his sister. I mean, this guy was adding on debt like it was a competition. Mind you, he was probably not making more than $2,000 per month. And there was a rumor, just a rumor, that both these cars were brand new, which if they were, man, fuck all, man. That guy, oh my God.
Oh my God.
The sickest part of all this is the fact that the dealer who sold him the cars let him do it. I want you to listen to me. Look at me right now. Stop whatever you're doing. Look at me in the eyes. If you join the military, okay, even if you don't join the military, if you see a dealer that has military financing in big letters, or if you go inside and there's pictures of like Navy and Navy memorabilia and maybe the owner's old pictures from boot camp, you need to turn around and you need to hightail it out of there now. It's even worse when they try to keep you in by like trying to relate to you and be like, oh man, I was in the military too, try to relive the good old days. No, you need to get out of there. As a matter of fact, one of the 2 times somebody was talking to me, just doing like financing just to see if I could afford the car, and I was just curious if I could afford it too. And then at the end of it, they're like, why don't you seem more excited, man? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, you're about to buy your first car. I was like, no, I'm not about to buy my first car. What are you talking about? He's like, oh, I thought that's why we were doing this. No, you wanted to see if I can afford it. And he was like, oh, well, okay. I thought I was I was not gonna buy a car for me. Plus, like 30 minutes earlier, I actually only went there not because I was looking for a car, but because I went with my friend. We were driving in his Mercedes. He actually bought from that place. It was like some 2002 like old Mercedes. It looked a little beat up, still a Mercedes, but pretty beat up. Anyways, while we were pulling up, the guy, like I guess one of the workers, looked at him and he's like, "Man, I thought you were a doctor pulling up." You gotta try harder than that, man. You gotta try harder than that. Like any kiss ass comments, man, you gotta take that with a huge grain of salt, I'm telling you. And remember, it's fine to get a car in the military as long as you do your research and if it's going to make you money, because you truly do not need a car in the military. Okay, so the second thing I see an absurd amount of money being spent on is the ship's store. Now, the ship's store is like a 7-Eleven of a 7-Eleven. You aren't going to find much besides like toiletries, a ton of snacks, stuff like that. Now, the store is mostly popular during deployment, obviously, and what makes the store so favorable is really the quick foods and snacks. Now, me personally, 99.9% of the food that I ate on the ship was from the galley or from the mess or whatever, the cafeteria. So I rarely ever spent a dime at the ship store. Some people, for some reason, think the galley is just so terrible that 80% of everything they eat comes from the ship store. Now, first, this probably isn't the healthiest choice, as most of the common food people buy at the ship store is like pre-made instant ramen noodles. But second, this was a terrible return on your money. I knew people that would spend their whole paycheck, one whole paycheck on shit alone from the ship store. Very rare, but there are people out there that do that, believe it or not. Can you imagine eating breakfast and lunch at home, but then every day for dinner you go to 7-Eleven? Now, for those of you who do that, I'm not judging. I'm just saying if you're in the military and you have access, to a full course meal and you choose to get instant ramen noodles, man, I mean, come on. So at the very least, please do yourself a favor and do your best to bring your own long-lasting snacks. Now, the third thing that is very common amongst all the branches, and is also something that a ridiculous amount of money can be spent on, is booze, liquor, White Claws, all of the above. At this point, almost every damn sailor is practically a connoisseur with how much alcohol I hear these people drink. Let me just tell you a story of how absurd a sailor's lust for alcohol can be. My last deployment, we pulled into this god-awful port, Oman. I hope none of you guys ever get stationed. I don't think you can get stationed there. I hope none of you guys ever visit there. It's nothing but sand and shipping containers. I'm not kidding you. That's it. That's really all it is. Well, in these containers are vendors. They sold various things like electronics, food, souvenirs. Here's the thing. When 3,000 to 5,000 sailors come off a ship looking for booze because they have just been out to sea for 60 days straight, practically working every day, the well is going to run a bit dry. And run dry did that well did. So much so that alcohol was starting to become more scarce, as these people that hosted us, basically like the people that kind of set everything up and that actually live there and work there, completely underestimated the amount of alcohol an American sailor can drink. This, of course, affects supply and demand, and before you know it, half a shot glass was being sold for $10, and none of that like high shelf tier stuff. No, I mean, like for like basic tequila or basic like vodka, and then the 12 packs were going for like $100 easy. People were literally flipping drinks at some point because everybody was so drunk they wanted to keep drinking. And when you bring somebody a shot and you ask for $20, you have a very high chance of selling that shot for $20 because people just wanted to get drunk. They were tired of working and they needed something to just relax, and that was their thing. Now, this led to one of the worst purchases that night, and in my opinion, probably that entire naval deployment. And that was apparently someone bought half a bottle of Bacardi for $300 American. A tragedy also struck that night when some poor fellow had lent his credit card to his supposed friend. Big mistake right there. Then that said friend had apparently lost him throughout the night, and he came back on board the ship later looking for him. Hey, have you seen so-and-so? I have his credit card. Anyways, we say, oh yeah, he should be sleeping down in that rack there, but he's not there right now. He's like, oh, I feel like a really terrible friend. And we're like, why? He's like, well, because he lent me his credit card and I maxed it out on alcohol. Can you imagine lending or getting a credit card from a friend and then maxing it out on something so, I don't even know how to say it, but I'm just maxing it out on liquor. We're like, yeah, you're a pretty terrible friend because of that. He's like, yeah, I know. Well, anyways, here, give this to him when you see it, and then gives it to someone else. Oh, I'm not saying you guys should go cold turkey and not drink, but even if you're underage, don't drink at all. But you really need to take a step back and reevaluate your life if like 5% of your income, of your paycheck, is going towards booze. Now, this fourth one really grinds my gears because it is absolutely unnecessary. If you are not receiving BAH, do not live out in town. I don't care if it's a ship. I don't care if it's a barracks room. I don't care if it's a goddamn tent in the woods. If the Navy is paying for you to sleep somewhere and food, then live there. I hear and see too many sailors that are renting out rooms with their buddies that are only like E1 or E2. And I have even heard sailors buying houses that aren't even receiving BAH yet. which, real quick, if you don't know what BAH is, it's basically an allowance that is determined where you live. I think the highest is in San Francisco. You get paid like $4,300 per month. That's tax free, so that's like just to find somewhere to live. But really, it's up to your chain of command to let you live off base. But there will be people that do it behind their back, simply because they just can't stand living on the ship anymore, or they can't stand the barracks. And let me tell you, if you live in the barracks and you can't stand it, that is not justifiable at all. Maybe on a ship, maybe, but with barracks, it's exactly like an apartment. And people on the ship want barracks is such a desirable thing in the Navy, okay? And people on a ship will know. People on a ship will know. There will be sailors spending like $300 or $600 per month just for a room, just to sleep on someone's couch. Now, like I said before, if it makes you money, go for it. You know, if you need to go behind someone's back, you know, maybe because you need more space because you started a business, so you need more inventory for something, or I don't know, if you need BAH, right? And the only way to get BAH is to live out in town. Okay, then that's fine, go for it. But if it isn't making you money, then stay away from all that extra spending that the Navy is paying for. It's as simple as that. Now, the last thing is sort of beating the dead horse, but I gotta say it, and it's food. Why would you spend extra money on food when somebody else is paying for 3 full course meals a day plus snacks? The military is already taking money out of your paycheck to pay for you to eat. The only time it should be acceptable to buy on a regular basis is when it comes in the form of BAS, or basically your allowance to go out and eat, which I think right now for every enlisted sailor, it's like $360 something. Now, I get it. I get the occasional Chick-fil-A meal. I get the occasional nice anniversary dinner. Okay, maybe once a week tops. All right, you have sushi night or you have Mexican night. That's cool. I have no problem with that. But some military members have a very serious problem when they're hungry, and they'll just eat whatever closest food source is near them that they can pay for. If it's too far to walk to base galley, or you don't like the taste of their food, that sucks. Walk to base galley. You want a snack for later on? Get some bread and the peanut butter and jelly packets and take that with you. Or if you don't like that, maybe try to ask for an extra scoop or an extra slice of meat for this. Try to get in good with the CSs, you know? Then you can sneak some food into your backpack to eat later. Food is like a wildfire, man, because it's one of those things where if you're hungry, you don't really care where you get your food from, and you'll spend whatever amount of money it takes to satisfy your hunger. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you want your liquor, your food, you don't rent when you're being paid to live somewhere, you're not going to the ship store, and you avoid crappy military dealerships, I can almost guarantee you that you will have more money saved than most of your enlisted superiors by the time you get out of the military. And that, my friends, is facts. Anyways, that was today's video. Sorry I haven't posted in so long. And just to clear things up, my last video was an April Fool's video. So don't worry, I'm still getting out of the military. I still believe that at the very least, you can use the military as a stepping stone, but I explained that more in my other videos. Anyways, so this video isn't too long. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to sync that like button to Davy Jones's Locker. I should have said that earlier. But and subscribe if you think I earned it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see you next time.